You must have parental controls and monitoring installed on every single device your child can access the internet on. And it's the seatbelt of the internet. I'm pretty sure you would never let your kid get in the car without putting their seatbelt on. It's not safe, right?
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 268. Today, we're talking about the birds and the bees and how to protect your child with Amy Lang. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, now with over 1 million downloads. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have, and when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Field's Mindful Mama mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of Mindful Parenting, and I'm the author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide for breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Hey, I hope you are doing well out there. I am in Delaware, and I'm having my first sunny, warm day of the spring. Hallelujah. I am so happy about that. And welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for listening. This is a powerful, amazing episode. I mean, honestly, I guarantee you're going to go contact all your friends and say, you have to listen to this. Like, you're going to make your partner listen to it the way I'm making my husband listen, and your friends too, because this is an incredibly powerful episode. In just a moment, I'm sitting down with sexuality educator Amy Lang, who has helped thousands of parents around the world become their kids' go-to birds and bees source. She is a Mom's Choice Award winner for her book and video, and the host of Just Say This, an advice column-style podcast offering parental guidance for the birds and the bees talks. And we are going to be talking about some incredibly important things today. We're going to be talking, about those conversations that are really awkward to have for most of us parents, but maybe some of the most important and most protective conversations that you can absolutely have with your kids. And so we're going to be talking about how do we keep kids safe online, what is normal sexual development, and so much more. Some important takeaways I want you to listen for are that we need to be using parental controls and monitoring on every single device. We're going to talk specifically about how to do that, and she has recommendations. Listen for our talk about using real names for private parts and how incredibly important and empowering that is, and how to talk about body boundaries and when to talk about body boundaries. And it's going to be a lot younger than you think. So before we dive into this, I just want to let you know that we get into some talk about sexual abuse that may be traumatic for you if you have a history of that. So I just want to warn you that there's, we get really real in this episode. So just take care of yourself. But if you can, this is an incredibly valuable and important conversation. Before we dive in, I just want to let you know that I'm so excited that we have started recording all the video from the Mindful Mama podcast. Yes, so you can see what it looks like when Amy and I talk to each other and how I cringe in awkwardness as we talk about parts of this. So please help us grow our baby fledgling YouTube channel, the Mindful Mama YouTube channel. And you can do that as you're listening to this, like you're listening to this on a device. You can see that it may say like now playing, and then there may be a tab up there on mine anyway that says notes, and you click over to the notes and you'll see right there a link for the Mindful Mama YouTube channel. So please go ahead and support this podcast by clicking over to the Mindful Mama YouTube channel, or you could search for it, of course, too, and subscribe and share clips from this awesome episode, which you are going to want to share anyway, I promise. All right, join me at the table as I talk to Amy Lang about protecting our kids. Amy, thanks for coming back and talking to us again.
My pleasure. My favorite topic.
Sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. Actually, before we talk about sex, let's talk about
Okay.
Let's talk about private parts.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Because I think this is a sort of like there's so many ways to like kind of go here. I want to talk about private parts in two ways, and that is like when our kids are little, how should we talk about deal with private parts? And then like when yeah, well, let's just start there. When our kids are little, how should we talk about and deal with private parts?
Okay, sounds good. So, first of all, from the time they are born, you need to be using the correct names for their privates because it's actually protective. And for most of us, we grew up not using the correct names for private body parts. So, I'm just going to run through them because there are some words that some folks haven't heard before. So, female bodies have vulvas, vaginas, clitorises. This is all the stuff you can basically see. I mean, you can't see a vagina. Outside parts. So you can see the vulva, you can see the clitoris, the labia minora, the labia majora. And then everybody has a butthole, which basically anus, but I say bottom or butthole because that's how I am. And then boys, what you can see is penis, scrotum, you want to say testicles, foreskin. And so I'm looking at your face. Are we allowed to have a crack up in your show?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yes, yes.
So,
it's just so funny.
I know. So anyway, so the reason we need to use you're very cute. So I'm saying all those words, and I think that a couple things in terms of the female body parts, everybody's been saying vagina when they're talking about down there, and vaginas are really hard to see. Yes, it is down there, but it's not what you see. And so for kids and for humans, what you see is the vulva. And vulva means covering in Latin, and it's the labia majora that cover up all those tender parts. So I'm on a vulva campaign. It's more accurate. And so if you haven't heard that word before or it's new to you, I just recommend that when you have a moment of peace that you run around saying vulva, 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 because that's correct. And so
because the vagina is the hole, right? Like
right,
that's
and
the
the
hole
tube.
inside is that it's like a tube that you can't see. So when your child points and says, "What's that?" or "What's this?" you say, "This is your vulva." Like if they're pointing to because they're probably not. I don't know how they would be pointing to the tube.
Right. Well, unless
Okay.
they're like down there and
Yeah, there's
sticking
probably
things
ways.
up
Okay.
there, which is no. So you just need to use those words, and here's why. So when kids know the correct names for their private body parts, and they've been taught them, it's empowering because we don't have pet names or cutesy names for any other part of our body. Like my nose is not my smeller, right? And
My
that
bye-bye for my bicep.
right, that's good actually. My bye-bye, my chompers, like like we don't teach our kids those words for any other body part. So that tells kids that there's something different, even something shameful or embarrassing, because we can't say the real words. Eventually, they're going to find out the real words, right? So that's the first thing. They have a right to know. B, when your child knows the correct names, and if somebody tries to monkey with them, if they say, "Hey, don't touch my vulva," or even if they just in like casual conversation say, "My penis is bugging me," that's actually a signifier to that person that someone's talking to that kid about their body. And I have I'm going to tell a story. There was a little girl, and she said to her teacher, "Grandpa touched my cookie." And the teacher said, That's okay. You should share with your grandpa."
Oh God, no.
Oh,
So
good thing she was
horrible.
tenacious, because she went back in a day or so and said, "Grandpa touched my cookie again." And
Oh.
the teacher said the same thing. "Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. It's okay for you to share with your grandpa. Share your cookie with your grandpa." She tried. So this kid, like, again, she's like, "Grandpa touched my cookie again." And finally, the teacher said, "What do you mean by cookie?" And she pointed to her privates. And then the girl got help. So if that girl had gone to her teacher and said, "Grandpa touched my vulva," what would have happened?
Boom.
Boom, instant help, instant help. And kids have to tell an average of 7 times before they're believed.
Really?
I know.
Wow.
I know. I'm sorry. I feel like we're starting your show with trauma. How about everybody breathe? Aren't we supposed to be peaceful here? Here we go. Let's
Breathe
take a
in,
breath.
breathe out. Mm.
Yeah. So this is a hard topic, but we have to talk about it. And so we're talking about young kids, right? And you were asking about
Mhm.
correct names for their privates, and that's or how we talk about privates. So that's how you talk about privates. You just do it. So if you have a kid who's 3 or under, just switch it up. Just
Mhm.
switch it up. Just say, "Oh, that's also called your vulva." If you have a kid who's over 3, then you need to say, "Hey, you know what? You're old enough now to know that the real word for your cookie is vulva." And then
Mm.
having those conversations about how they're a private part of your body, they're not for sharing, it's not okay for anyone to touch you there or for you to touch anyone else's privates, unless you need help, and then me, other parent, doctor will help you. Um,
And and what do you think about, like, okay, so we definitely wanna have those I mean, so what are some ways to kind of initiate it? So I think I remember, like we taught kids names of things like nose, ears. Like that's when we want to start that conversation, right? It's just like every other body part. When do you want to make sure you've said or have said at least once or maybe a number of times, like if anybody's touched you, that kind of statement to your kid. At what
So you
age?
want to remind them because, as you may know, 4-year-olds don't have a great amount of retention, right? So reminding them, and you don't have to say. You need to remind your tone, and if you say no one should ever touch you there in your private parts, like that's the rule, right? That's going to make your kid think you're bonkers and kind of make them like anxious about that part of their body. So you can just like throw a reminder out there. Oh, hey, I was just thinking, I just want to remind you that, if you're playing a game with a friend or you're at someone's house or, you're wrestling or whatever, I just want to remind you that it's not okay or safe to like play games with privates or for anyone to touch your privates, for you to touch anyone else's, and just
Mm.
be like chill about it. There are really good books for kids that are really helpful with this. One is called C is for Consent. Another is
Hmm.
called I Can Play It Safe. I'll send these to you so you can just
Okay,
put them
cool.
in the show notes.
Yes, yes, let's do that.
And then my favorite one for really little kids is called It's My Body.
Hmm.
Um, the reason I like all of these books is that they're not creepy. A whole lot of like safe touch and sexual abuse prevention books are just like, I am a grown ass adult. They freak me out. So like they give me the creep. So these ones don't. The reason I like It's My Body is because it gives a script. It's really simple. So kids can practice saying, no, don't stop. I don't like that. It's totally my favorite. Now, just one caveat. It looks like 1982. I actually know the publisher and I said, hey, could you update the cover? Because my people aren't, they're going to look at this and think, no. So they did. So the cover you
Wow.
get is the updated cover.
Good for you, Amy. That's
Oh,
amazing.
no. Oh, no. Wait till you see it.
Oh, no.
They changed the color. They made the red redder. That's
Oh,
it.
no.
Yeah. So anyway, don't let that put you off. Anyway, and then books are one of the best and easiest ways to introduce this idea, right? Just around safe touch.
Yeah.
So winging it, like I just did, is okay. Like you just have to have these little reminders. Like when they're getting ready for the bath, you can say, "Hey, what I did with Milo is I would say to him, are your shoulders private? No, mama. Is your tummy private? No, mama. Is your penis private? Yes, mama. Are your knees private?" So I'd go through this litany with him. So I wanted him to really understand like that, like it's like people say bathing suit areas, which is one way to talk about it. But at some point he's like, I started doing that and he's like, got it. Like, I got it. You can stop doing this. Um, because it's just a casual kind of fun way to teach them correct names for their private body parts, to talk about safety. And this is like the first, like correct names for private body parts and the boundary conversation. That's the first sex talk. Those are the first sex talks.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. So I'm wearing right now the most beautiful, delicate silver necklace that I love, and these gorgeous little hoop earrings of the highest quality that are amazing. So I am thrilled that Ana Luisa Carbon Neutral Jewelry is a sponsor of the Mindful Mama podcast. And they are giving us a discount code, the code HUNTER, to give you 10% off all their products. So these are such high quality, elegant and fun, really nice pieces of jewelry that are completely carbon neutral. They offset 100% of their carbon emissions, starting with the sourcing of the raw materials all the way to the disposal of the pieces. Ana Luisa does limited batches, ensuring the highest production standards while eliminating excessive waste. And Ana Luisa, ANALUISA, they have exceptional quality. They're long-lasting pieces crafted with care from the best noble metals. They offer a 365-day warranty to replace or refund any piece that doesn't meet your expectations. And they have incredibly fair prices. The jewelry starts at $39 with no luxury markup. Ana Luisa, with our coupon code HUNTER, remember you can get 10% off all the products. You're going to love them. These pieces are great for yourself or as a gift for a loved one. And I am loving this jewelry. It comes with the most beautiful little packaging that is really beautiful. And I'm so thrilled about their sustainable mission. And that's why it makes so much sense for us to be partnered with them sponsoring the podcast. I love these little hoop pieces. They are these gorgeous little silver hoops, and I needed something small that I could wear in a lot of different settings, and I can like fall asleep with these on. They're so comfortable. They stay put. I'm not going to lose them, which I've done with cheaper jewelry because these are really exceptional quality. You can go to Ana Luisa and get 10% off using the coupon code HUNTER, and that's ANALUISA.com. And you can actually find that link if you're listening to this now. You can find that link when you're looking at your device. It says now playing, and then it has notes. Click over to those show notes and you can find that link right now. I love these pieces. Now that I'm an adult, I want some good quality jewelry that really is flattering to me and is really going to last. And Ana Luisa is not only exceptional quality, but it's also carbon neutral and incredibly fair prices. Go treat yourself or your loved ones with a unique gift and get 10% off at analuisa.com/hunter. I absolutely recommend them. They are a great brand making sustainable jewelry, so go check it out. analuisa.com/hunter. We can do that. We can do this. We can do this, parents. Yeah. And I actually had a book. I think I agree. I love this idea that winging it is okay, but books are this like kind of a great way to kind of guide us through this conversation. And I've had a couple things in my life. One, a book that I liked when my kids were younger was, you may know about this one, Who Has What, which is great because it like shows like the dog's testicles and then the puppy, it's like, oh, it's like everybody has these parts, and it's just like, it's so like just relaxed and it does have nice illustrations. But also recently, or a couple of years ago, my oldest daughter got involved in Scouts, and she's in Boy Scouts BSA. And so they have girl troops now, and they got in big trouble for sexual abuse scandals. And because of that, what they have implemented, they have all these really smart protocols implemented now. But one of them was that like our whole family had to go through this training. We had to read the passages about these things to our children. Like that was a required thing for her to go into Scouts. And it was great for me because I was like, I'm sorry, I have to read this to you so you can do this. So it was not like, it wasn't like, oh, Mom, you're trapping me into this uncomfortable conversation. I'm like, this is required by these other people. And so I really actually very much appreciated that structure was there. So those structures, I do think really help. They help us.
Totally. And, good job on the Boy Scouts for like, they are front runners in terms of abuse prevention in their organization. It is too bad that thousands and thousands and thousands of boys were sexually abused there. But they've turned like, that is a good thing. Right. And you're right. Like having that, like, oops, it's not me. It's really handy, right? Oh yeah, this is required. So we don't all get that. So just saying, you need to know this, it's important, right? So we're going to talk about this. And the younger your kids are, the more they're like, okay, whatever. But you don't do it at 5 and then never talk about it again. Like you have to keep talking about it. So there's another book that's called Consent for Kids. And if you've ever seen the Consent is Like Tea video, where they're comparing giving someone, making tea for someone, and they're like, would you like a cup of tea? No, thank you. Here, no, drink the tea. Like they're using it like that. So it's been written by the person who put that together. It's really, really good. Different scenarios, friendly, again, not creepy, not scary, and really, really helpful. So I love that for kids who are probably 6, 7 and older.
All right, cool. So, and we need these resources because we are living in a very different world. And I think that one of the things that's been a realization for me as I've just like grown up as a human being is like, oh, how like I didn't realize that abuse scenarios were as pervasive as they are. I mean, it was shocking to me. You probably have a statistic on this.
1 in 4 women,
It's
or 1 in
amazing.
6 women. And I don't know the stats with boys because they don't report as frequently,
Boys don't
but
report
we
as
all
frequently.
know someone who was sexually abused. And the abuse ranges, right? Like one of the things about trauma is that what's traumatic to you is not necessarily traumatic to, what's traumatic to you might not necessarily be traumatic to me. And so one of the things with abuse disclosure is, how do the adults handle it? And of course, what happened, right? But it is super common. The rule of thumb is, if a child says, Grandpa touched my cookie, you just believe them. They don't lie. They don't lie. You just and then you need to get the child help. The focus should always be on helping the child, not supporting the family, because most of the time the abuse happens with someone the child is known to the child and family. They usually, love that person, like that person. And so, as we're like, if a child discloses, it's really important to stay really calm. It's hard. And to focus on, what, when, where, and then you say, thank you so much for telling me. We're going to get you some help, and we're going to get Uncle Creepy some help. And because they know and love that person, even though in your head you're like, I'm a nonviolent person, but I'm just going to go stab him like 17 times, right? Like that's happening in your head, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
child, if we keep it child focused, they're the most important person in the room. They're the most important person. They need your protection and support and love. And what can happen with this is that the family structure can just go kaflooey, and they will decide the child's lying or discount it or make it less, and they'll let that person be engaged still in their family. Not all the time, but the person offends on an average of about 200 times before they're caught. So 200 incidents before they're caught, right? So yeah. I just want to acknowledge that this is really hard stuff. And, we all have our experiences. And I'm actually just going to pause and give a resource, because this can be triggering. And so if you yourself have an abuse experience, or you're worried about a child, RAINN, RAINN.org is a super resource for you. You can talk to someone anonymously. They are highly reputable. They really know what they're doing. And, people do recover from this sort of thing, especially kids when they get help before they're in puberty. Treatment is usually 6 months to a year, and they go on to live healthy, happy lives. When puberty's on the scene, it's a little more difficult for a variety of reasons. But so, honestly, thank you for asking about this. I don't get to talk about this with parents very frequently at this level. I work with early childhood educators, and we talk about this all the time. That's all I do. So, I don't want to terrify anyone. We have this overly protective culture already around kids. So
Mhm.
that's why these body boundaries and open communication about sexuality and bodies is so helpful, because you want your kiddo to see you as a trustworthy resource. So if
Mm.
something is going sideways, they can say, hey, this happened, rather than, perceiving us as uncomfortable with anything around private parts, or
Mm.
just not, like, if we don't talk about this, they don't know that they can talk to us. And that
Yeah.
goes for sexuality in general. Like, if we don't open our mouths and say the words, then they don't know that we're open to it. And say, I'm totally open to talking to you. If something's upsetting you, I won't get mad. Make sure you get help. Like, using that kind of language is super, super, super important. So, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
listener, I should say.
Yeah. No, I think this is important. We talked about names for private parts, but I think this is, and just like this is super super important. We dove into the deep end. I kind of thought maybe we weren't diving in the deep end if when we didn't dive in with porn yet, but just to let you know, that's where we're going. But in the middle space,
Yes.
in the middle space, what can parents expect as like normal sexual kid behavior when they're like young, and then in elementary, and then maybe into puberty?
Thank you. I love this question as well. But first, why don't we all take a breath again?
Yes, let's take a breath again.
Go.
I
Thank
needed
you.
that too.
That's why
I
I
need
love your podcast, because we can do that. Like, on other podcasts, I'm like, okay, we need to take a breath. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? But no, here we get to breathe. So I'm so glad you asked that, because one of the things about kids and sexual behaviors is that we think everything is bad. Like, if your kid's playing doctor, oh my God, that means, or like something bad has happened, or it's, like, that's our lens, mostly because we don't know anything about childhood sexual development. So here's the dealio. We're sexual from the get-go. Like, it is part of who we are. And baby boys figure out, it feels, they hang on to their tallywhacker like in utero, and they figure out really quickly that it feels good to touch their penis, right? Girls, or things are a little heightier, so it's kind of hard to get in down there, but they do too. And so, those parts of our bodies are wired up for pleasure from the beginning. But childhood, like young childhood sexuality, looks very different than teenager sexuality. There aren't any hormones engaged. So with young kids, what we expect is, and this is considered typical, it's considered common, these behaviors are worldwide. Like, every kiddo usually kind of goes through these phases. So lots of curiosity about who's got what in the privates department, right? Looking, sometimes touching. Because remember, we're 4, right? If you put your 4-year-old hat on and somebody's got this thing hanging off the front of them and you don't have one, you're going to be like, hi, dude, can I touch that? And they're going to be like, sure, why not? Because they don't know, right, that there's anything bad or embarrassing or like not okay about that. So we see that. We see playing doctor, and it's literally a game to them. They're playing doctor, and oh, I'm going to look at your parts, right? Because that's just what we're doing. We're at the doctor's office. Or they play midwife, and there's a full-on birth scene, right? Like, so, and sometimes they're down in there. So these kinds of behaviors we expect. They're not wrong. They're not bad. The other thing too is potty talk. Like, I did not know the word poop could be so hilarious until I had a 5-year-old. I was like, dude, no one wants to hear that outside. No adult wants to hear that. That's what I said. So you can do that outside or in the bathroom. And so he did. Like, he pooped his butt off. I saw mouth off, I should say, like outside, right? So I say that, like, this is typical stuff, and we know that, right? We know that. So knowing that, like, expecting that in terms of their sexual development, means that when you find this happening, like your kid's playing doctor, or a child I know was playing baby kittens, and then that turned into, I overheard, Milo was 5, I think, and I overheard, he's with one of his best friends, and I hear penis, vulva, and I'm like, crap, because the baby kittens were taking a nap, and then it turned into checking out each other's parts. So this just happens like this. So we know it's healthy, we know it's typical, we know it's normal. So when we correct their behavior, it's hard to keep your poop in a group, but when you correct their behavior, you just say, hey, it's not okay or safe to play games with privates. Kids can get hurt. Remember, it's a private part of your body, very tender, very sensitive, and that's the rule. And so you just reinforce, like, it's like, yeah, I get you're curious. and it's not a safe way to play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. It's when you say it, like it's so practical and down to earth. I love that. So can you just like repeat that little script again? Because I think
Yeah.
that we could all use one more
Yeah,
round of
yeah, yeah,
practice.
yeah. So there's actually a full script. So looks like this. So here they are. They're baby kittens, and Amy overhears penis, vulva, or whatever. So I went into the bedroom, and the door was open. Children do not need privacy. Bedroom doors should always be open. And I went to the bedroom, and I said, "Hey, I heard that you two are looking at each other's privates." Very specific. And I
Mhm.
said, "It's not okay or safe to play that way. Kids can get hurt. That's the rule.
Yeah.
So let's go." I
Yeah.
don't know what I did with them. Have a snack, wash hands, something, and just
Mhm.
redirect them. So the most important things are the I statements. Hey, I see, or I heard. There's another piece where you can say, I feel uncomfortable when that happens, because it just sends a message. It's
Mhm.
not okay or safe to play this way. So let's go do something else. And just a little like gentle reminder.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. If you listen to the episode with the amazing Elizabeth Feldman Barrett, you know how important sleep is for our body budget and what a huge impact that can have on our parenting. And quality sleep is a hot commodity in this day and age. You know, people have tried so many things, but one thing that is working so well is New Calm. It's an all-natural, reliable system that enhances your sleep by flipping the switch, like literally from tired to powerfully relaxed. I have used New Calm when I was in a really excited, agitated, frustrated state. And New Calm brought me into this, my whole body mind system into this blissful, alert and relaxed, so relaxed state that it completely transformed my state. It was pretty amazing. New Calm primes your body and mind so that you can receive the deep restorative sleep that you need. So imagine if I was able to go from this super agitated state to super relaxed, how it's going to help you sleep. It's so amazing. New Calm is the only system of its kind. So it's clinically proven in over 1 million sessions to improve your sleep, reduce your stress, and boost your recovery without drugs and side effects. The New Calm system uses cutting-edge neuroscience and consists of 3 non-invasive and non-pharmaceutical items, all of which are included in your monthly subscription that costs less than a daily cup of coffee. The whole process is easy to use and to work into your daily routine to achieve better sleep, reduction in stress, and boost in recovery. So do what I did. Own the day with New Calm and make 2021 the year you improve your sleep. This is so important. We have a special link set up specifically for Mindful Mama listeners. Go to hunternewcalm.com and get 50% off your 30-day subscription of New Calm and their money-back guarantee. That's hunternucalm.com. hunternucalm.com, and you can find that link right in the show notes. As you're listening to this, you can look at your device, see the picture of the Mindful Mama podcast, and see there's a link for notes. And as you click on notes, you can find that hunternewcalm.com link right there. Yeah, I love that. And I love how the first time around you said these are sensitive parts and you can get hurt that. That's just so practical.
Tender.
You don't want to hurt these sensitive little tender parts of your body.
Only for you to touch. There's some things you can add in there, but the goal here is to keep it super simple, because that's going to keep you calm. If you go in there and you're like, I just heard you say, what's going on in here? Are you looking at each other's privates? That is not okay. And it's not safe to play that way. Those are very sensitive parts of your body. Come on, let's go get a snack or wash hands, right? The kids are going to be like, crazy. What happened? She's crazy. Right. And they're going to, if they see you freaking out, they're going to be like, oh, she's not safe to talk to. They're not safe to talk to because they freak out. And I just want to say, it is really hard to keep your poop in a group when this kind of thing happens. So I don't want to like make this sound like it's like, oh, dude, how's the penis party going? Like, it's not going to be like that. But if you're aware now that this is expected and typical, then you can have a moment where you take a breath and you're like, okay, playing doctor, now what? Playing doctor, now what?
Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you, Amy. That's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly helpful. Okay. So those younger ages are going to be checking things out. They're going to be playing doctor. They're going to be curious. How about as we get into elementary ages?
Yeah. Okay. So things kind of like everything's going to kind of ratchet up as they get older. So in elementary,
joy.
I know. Sorry. Thanks. Hey, you asked me to be on the show. You started this. I feel like I'm bouncing my computer. So in elementary, what we expect to see are some games like boyfriend, girlfriend, kissing games, maybe spin the bottle, like we're getting kind of upper elementary. Still curiosity, questions about like sex and how babies are made, and looking at like relationships, crushing. There may be some body rubbing, maybe some inspecting. So it kind of, you see how it just turned up a little bit. And this is
rubbing other people's bodies or rubbing our own bodies.
Like they might be playing like getting married and then you kiss and then it's the honeymoon and you happen to have a little data about what happens on the honeymoon. So there might be some body rubbing, which can happen. It's not repeated. So it's just occasionally, usually in both circumstances, the kids are really good friends. It's just not a random like play date and suddenly pants are down or something like that. It's usually, they usually have a connection and it's fun. And to all of these things are games to the kids. They're games. They're in that context of this is a game, right? So we're playing getting married. We're playing boyfriend, girlfriend. We're playing doctor, right? It's all a game to them. We know that it's troublesome, right? It could cause problems, but they don't think about it that way. And that's one of the ways you know that it isn't something to be, I mean, of course, we're always going to worry. It's one way to know that it's not, it's called sexualized when they play a game that's like adult-like. So just again, kind of paying attention to that. With older kids, you can have conversations about who's crushing on who, have you ever, you can say to your kids, ever played any games with private parts? And you just be like, how's the weather? But you're saying like, ever played any games like with private parts or kissing games? You can be super cool, chill about it, and casual, and just see what they say.
And your kids will see right through you. They
well,
will be like, I see you,
them,
Mom. Like you want to do it side by side.
Yeah.
Like we're going for a walk. And so that way you don't make eye contact.
Back seat. They're behind you. And you can be like, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to find out if you've been playing kissing games. Again, don't be all formal. Just be like, I was wondering. I remember when I was a kid, I used to play boyfriend, girlfriend with my friend Ashley. And we'd pretend we're getting married and, just blah, blah, blah. Ever played a game like that? Just feel it out. And, again, the things I'm describing are worldwide. We expect to see this because they're starting to explore more, right? Like they're seeing relationships. And so they're mimicking things that in their own playful way, like in a playing way. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's some questions about puberty and like getting the like whiff that things are going to change up, right? Their bodies.
Yeah, my daughter's like, my one daughter, like I gave her the American Girl book about bodies, and she like dog-eared it and like took notes and stuff like that. Like she was all about it. And the other one has also been reading it too. I'm a big believer in resources because it just is like, if you can't talk to me, at least like that was, now as I guess we can kind of shift the conversation in adolescence, but like, I had an my daughter's 13, like I had incredible resistance to talking to me. I was like, God, Amy told me to talk to her. And she was like, don't talk to me about this. Don't. And she would like walk away. And I was like, like, what do I do? I'm supposed to talk to her. And then I was like, because at this point, I was like graduating her to the Our Bodies Ourselves book. And I was like, listen, I am going to have to dog you and worry about this. If I'm going to have to feel like it's like, so there's something seriously wrong that I should worry about and you should get counseling for. If you can't talk to me about anything, I said, at the very least, like all I want to tell you is like, just take this book and look at this book instead of going online. Like that was my only message for her. And so she finally like was able to accept that, but it was like hard. It was hard
Yeah.
to, she has much resistance to these conversations.
Yes. That's my child, ironically.
Of
He told me
course.
he'd rather talk to strangers than me or his dad. It was great. It was a fine moment. And he was like 11.
Mm.
And if they do that, you just say, sorry, sucks. I'm just going to give me 2 minutes. I'm going to say the thing and get on with it. And I love that you gave her Our Bodies Ourselves. It's a great resource. Has everything in it. Everything in
I
it.
remember it from
Yeah.
when my
Me too.
mom gave it to me. I was like,
Right.
wow, this is
Yeah.
an interesting book.
Yes. So, okay. So let's talk about peak. So that was just kids in pre-puberty. Now let's talk about kids in puberty. So we're looking at like 9 to 13-year-olds at this stage. So turned up interest. So now they're really getting interested in sex. They're curious about it. They're talking about it. They're hearing terms. And so they want to kind of dig in more deeply. You may overhear them talking about sexual stuff. And you just need to keep an ear out for like what they're saying. And so they may know about oral sex. They may know about anal sex. They may know more because of porn exposure, which we'll be traumatizing you with in just a short moment after we get through this. You can have to. I'm excited to hear what you end up calling this show.
What do I title this? God,
Yeah, the title. God, I don't know. You might not want to listen to this, or we'll find out. Like whoever's listening, you're going to know what you came up with. So we do see more like adult-like sexual activity, a teenager-like sexual activities. So a pair of kiddos might be dating. They might try making out a couple times. Sometimes they'll try sex, which we don't like, but usually it's not repeated. Like they don't regularly do it, or they don't regularly make out. It's usually, and if you just harken back to your days of being like in middle school or whatever, I knew someone who was having sex, and we were in the 7th grade or the 8th grade. And I was like 8th grade, and she had her boyfriend was a 10th grader. And I remember thinking that ain't right. Like she's too young. This is weird. So if you kind of think back to what the general population was doing when you were in that age group, that's pretty much what's going on now. So
I have a very personal question for you about this, because when I was like 11, like I went on my first date, like I had a boyfriend in 5th grade and stuff like that. And like, this is just not like, my kids are like, I'm not seeing any signs of any of that. Plus my 8th grader is like living in a pandemic, like goodness, like I feel like in some ways, like I should be having some of these conversations, but like, it almost seems like rude to imply, like, because she's never out of our house. Like, it's like, what am I supposed to say to you? Like, you have 0 opportunities to like be with the opposite sex, which I'm pretty sure she's like a straight kid. She hasn't indicated, she's very open to all of that. So I don't know. It's like, it seems like I'm not quite sure how to approach it, because there's just so extremely little opportunity. Right. From what I can see.
Right. So you having a boyfriend at 11, like I'm sure that was not like when you had a boyfriend at 17.
Yeah. Very different.
Very different. So think about it in terms of like practicing, right?
Okay,
practicing.
Yeah. It was with like that. Yeah.
Yeah. With a little oomph, because we've got some hormones going on. So let me think if there's anything else that's going on there. I mean, mainly curiosity, chatter among peers, some testing the waters, a little experimentation that looks, like I said, more teenager-like, but nothing regular. And then the teenagers are easy. So like once they get to like 14, they do everything. Not every kid, but pretty much everything's on the table. So you can just assume that your child, assuming, they can have human interaction, and I'll answer your question in just a sec, that they can have human interaction. You can assume that they at least know someone who's having sex or headed that way. They may be headed that way themselves if they have a partner, and they may be like your daughter who's got no opportunity, right? I mean, really, to be doing physical like stuff and dating. So just to your question, I think you should say that to her. I think you should just say, it's kind of, I was thinking about this, and it kind of is weird that you're not having any opportunity to like really get to know people and see, if there's somebody you might want to date in that kind of typical way because you're like in class together. So I just wanted to say that and just say like, what do you think? And I would also say, are any of your friends like I want to say hooking up online, but you pick your words, right? Are any of your friends like finding boyfriends, relationships? What's happening there? And just do a little poke around and explore, because kids are dating this way. Thank God. And there's no parts and holes, and they get to know each other. But that being said, you need to be super clear that there are no and never, ever, ever, ever anything naked, no parts, nothing when you're having when you're having a relationship like this. It's very risky. Because for a variety, it's illegal because it's making child porn. So we can start there. It's risky. Kids can get in a lot of trouble. It's a felony, it's a felony times 3. So you just need to be really clear that clothes are always on, or there could be a shit storm, right? And most kids don't do that, but they do sext and they send stuff back and forth. So you just need to be really clear. That's why you need to check your kids' phones, and it's super hard right now because of Snapchat and all these different ways they communicate. They have secret Instagram accounts. They have their public account, and then they have their private accounts.
Oh,
yeah. Good news, huh?
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I know.
Because we have banned Snapchat because we don't want them having to do a streak of,
No.
So that's like where you have to every day respond or something like that.
No.
You have to send something. So we're definitely against that.
No.
She asked and we were like, no Snapchat. Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. I am so excited about spring because next week my daughter and I are going to be working on our new community garden plot together, and we are super excited about it, and we already have baby lettuces. Just like my family, your family is probably sticking closer to home this spring, which is still a big change for you and your kids. So why not gift them the super cool STEAM projects that take their imagination on a trip without leaving home? With a KiwiCo subscription, your child gets a new crate full of fun science and art projects every month. From trailblazing toddlers to more experienced explorers and every stage in between. We gifted my daughter a doodle crate for Christmas, and she has made the coolest projects. She did this felt succulent garden project. I walked in, I thought that she had bought all these little succulents, but she had made this beautiful little succulent garden out of felt. She sat there on the floor and was working on this for a while, just totally absorbed in the work. And I love the things they have for the little ones. They have little kids crates, which are so adorable. They have these koala crates for ages 2 to 4. And they have one about the doctor's visit that helps prepare them for the doctor's visit. It's hard to find new creative ways to keep kids busy while stretching their brain, especially now. But KiwiCo does the legwork for you, so you can spend more quality time tackling projects together. There's something for kids for all ages, literally, from babies to adults. And what's the best part? For me, it's definitely like seeing the confidence and the smiles, but my daughter loves getting stuff in the mail, and it's all shipped right to your door. There's no commitment, so you can pause or cancel anytime. With KiwiCo, there's something for every kid or kid at heart every month. Get 30% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with the code HUNTER at kiwico.com. That's 30% off your first month at kiwico.com, promo code HUNTER. And you can find that link right in the notes for this episode. Where you're listening to this podcast, just look at it. You'll see notes and you can find that link right there. kiwico.com. Use the promo code HUNTER. Oh, so many things. So many things to go. So I'll share this. So let's dive into the icky, sticky porn issue because I want to share this. Like I talked to people like Amy. Like I talk to parent educators and I talk to child development people all the time for this podcast. And you know what happened to us? And I've got a super tech savvy, like computer programmer husband who I thought had put some blocks and things on our devices. And then, so one summer day, I think my daughter was 8 or 9. I had my window open. I was doing a mindful parenting coaching call, membership coaching call, and she heard me say spanking. And then she went inside and looked up
No,
spanking.
I'm
And
sorry.
guess what happened? She came up. So my husband has an office inside and he with windows, and he looked over to the window and saw her watching some porn. And she was just like shocked and like, oh my God. And he stopped his meeting and like went over and talked to her and asked if she was okay. And we talked about it and blah, blah, blah. But this can happen. It's so easily available, is what I want to say. Like for the best of us, don't don't make assumptions on this. This is what I have to say, but I'm sure you're obviously nodding your head and agreeing here. So fill us in on what's going on in the world with this, Amy.
So what you just described is exactly how kids are being exposed. I have a couple that came in because their daughter Googled horses and made her way to porn.
Oh man.
I mean,
Horses.
if you're bored, Google horses, go to images, scroll down till you see a horse with an erect penis. You cannot unsee things. Click on that, scroll down some more. You will end up in porn within 4 clicks. I just did this because
Wow.
a ranty newsletter about porn because I was like, I want to see how quickly I can get to porn. And I followed she was 7. I followed my 8-year-old, my 8-year-old did all the work, 7-year-old did all the work. So kids aren't being exposed necessarily because they're searching for porn terms, because they're looking for sex. So spanking. Wait, she's like, oh, spanking. All right, what is that? Okay, I haven't remembered because I bet you probably, maybe the one time you spanked, like like the best of us, right? Or whatever. Like you don't spank your kids, right? You don't.
She has zero exposure to that at all.
So she's like, oh, what's that? Right. And so she gets in there and checks it out. So that's the first thing, is it's happening innocently. And then not every kid rabbit holes. Not every kid goes down the rabbit hole. Not every kid repeat uses. But the deal is that it is not your child's responsibility to be safe online. It is not their job. Absolutely not their job. It is a requirement. And I am like, no BS here. Like if you take I know we've traumatized you, but if you take anything away from our conversation today, it is this. You must have parental controls and monitoring installed on every single device your child can access the internet on. And it's the seatbelt of the internet. I'm pretty sure you would never let your kid get in the car without putting their seatbelt on. It's not safe, right? It is not safe to let your kid out on the world wide web, right? You can get anywhere. You can see anything. You can look up how to commit suicide, right? Like you can look up grisly car crashes. Like there's awful stuff out there. And so as your kids get older, they're going to search for like penis enlargement or like whatever, right? Or boobs or butts or whatever. So they're going to end up there. It is like, I looked at the encyclopedia and we looked up words, right? We found like our bodies ourselves, we're poring over that. We saw porn mags, like Playboy or whatever. Like we didn't have this opportunity. I know if I was living right now as a kid or an adolescent, I would be right there. I would have been right there, Googling all this, looking at the porn. And so there's a product called Circle. We'll put it in the show notes. Get $20 off for using my special link. I get a little kickback too, because they aren't going to necessarily search it out. But if they do, you need to know. So some folks don't know the difference between monitoring and parental controls. So monitoring is watching. You're watching where they're going. Circle is really great. There's an app. It tells you where they're going. You get a ping if they search for something that's troublesome or if they see something that's troublesome. Parental controls are the blocking. So you block terms. The younger they are, the tighter the controls. gets a little complicated as they get older because they need to have access to different things just for school and that kind of thing. But
Or
by
if you
the
have
time
multi-age household, like if you have a
multi-age
5-year-old
households,
and a 14-year-old.
right? It's complicated.
Yeah.
It gets complicated. But by the time they are like seventh, eighth grade, you can take all the parental controls off, but you're still monitoring, so they can go anywhere they want. When Milo was in the seventh grade, he was having an adolescent fit because of a variety of things. But one of the things he was mad about was that we had monitoring on the computer and his devices. And he said, and I hate it because I can only go to 3 to 5 websites because I know you're watching. And I was like, yes, indeed. I said, yeah, I can see how frustrating that would be. And then I ran downstairs and found my spouse. And I'm like, Carrie, it's working. Because that's what we want, right?
High five.
High five, right? We want them to flex that muscle of self-control. And so I don't know, like everybody says, oh, my kid would never, not my kid. It's just wrong. Your kid, your kid, your kid. And if not your kid, then some other kid, a kid at your house is going to comes over to your house and is like, hey, check this out. On the school bus, like kids show each other stuff. It's everywhere. It's instantly accessible. And it is not your child's job to be responsible for their online safety. Absolutely not.
Okay. I love this. I think we need to underline this. The parental, that is not your child's responsibility to be safe online. But you just also said by 7th and 8th grade, you can take parental controls off.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
So they can go anywhere they want to, and you're watching.
But you just monitor.
You're still monitoring.
You're
still monitoring.
Okay.
You don't take the monitoring away. You're always, always watching until they're about, like, I think we stopped when Milo was 17 or 18. It was like, whatever, ship has sailed. Like, I'm tired of like unblocking crap for you. Cause sometimes there was stuff that he couldn't get to. And so, you know your kids, your family, but less is like tighter reins is better, or better, tighter is better. But they do need to be able to look at stuff. And like Milo said, I can only go to 3 to 5 websites because I know you're watching, right? He's doing self-control. And this isn't perfect. They work around. It's not perfect. But I will tell you one thing. I've never had so many phone calls and emails and consultations around porn exposure this year. Kids are online so much, and parents are stressed out, and they don't have what they need to have in place to protect their kids. I don't ask anymore in a group like who has monitoring and parental controls. If I had a group of 30 live people, I'd have 5 people raise their hand. And I'm not like, I'm shaming everyone right now, but that kind of shame is not healthy like in a group. So I just want to talk about the school computers right now, just for a few minutes. You have to check them, because the monitoring can fall off. The parental controls can go sideways. This is happening not all the time, but you need to spot check. So get on your kid's computer and Google sex, Google boobs, Google spanking, and see where you can go. I had one family call me because their son had moved, and he was accidentally logged into his mom's Gmail or whatever Google account. And so he figured that out. And kids are going and fooling around where they're supposed to be in school. His dad, after they figured out he was watching porn during school, and he was bouncing back and forth. And this is really shocking. He was 9, and he had about 70 hours. He'd seen about 70 hours of porn since September.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was just a mistake, right? Wrong account. So I don't mean to terrify you, but
this might be healthy terror for us.
A healthy terror, and I am just so sorry. This is all so hard right now. But this is something I bet that's in the back of your mind that's like, are they okay? Are they okay? Are they okay? And if you've done everything you can to make sure they're safe online, then you can take that down a notch. The worry, as you know, Miss Mindful, that worry, that little neggling thing, it sucks your soul. Yeah. And this is a soul sucker. And maybe this entire episode is a soul sucker.
No. This is a wake-up call for all of us. I mean, I'm going to be going in and doing that test. I mean, that sounds really like very smart and very practical again, Amy, like go in and see where you can get with your kids' stuff.
Right. Yes. And then if you can get all kind of places. Make sure they're logged into their account, and then tell the school district, tell the school. I hopped on, I spot checked, and I went and saw some great looking butts, like, or whatever. And it's harder as the kids are older because they need to be like in high school and stuff. They need to go go places to learn stuff. So yeah, so that's one thing, but let's just take a minute. I know we're sort of talking
Let's
forever
take a deep
here.
breath.
Let's take a breath again, because I have some help. I have help. There are 2 books. They're called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. There's Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior, and then Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, I call it Senior, that are about how to about pornography. They're for kids, how to handle porn exposure, what porn can do to, hearts and minds and brains when it comes to sexuality. It's got tips for what to do when they're exposed. Like, so for example, really simply just say to your kids, like, hey, if you're ever online and you see any videos or pictures of naked people, or if your older kids, like say people having sex, that is not okay or safe for you to see. It can really mess you up when it comes to like sex and sexuality. So the rule is you need to stop watching, turn off the device, come find me or other safe adult and let me know. You won't be in trouble. You won't be in trouble. This kind of thing happens. So they just need that step by step by step.
Would you recommend that book for like an 11-year-old?
Oh yeah,
What age?
Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Senior for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm ordering it like right after I talk to you.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You all should. There are other books you should order, but anyway. And so just having that conversation and like I call it refusal skills. So like they're on the school bus with a friend, with a kid, and the kid, like one of my best friends, both of her daughters who are 4 years apart, first week of middle school, a kid showed them porn on their phone. Like, hey, check this out. And so those gals were very sex educated. They were porn educated. And so when both of the kids did that, the girls were like, dude, like, no, thank you. Like, what the hell are you doing? And shamed him, which is
good for them.
Right. They were like, no, thank you. And they, there might've been some swears at him, which, I'm fine with that. And so doing that, or like when a kid shows like, hey, check this out. Like one of the other really great lines is to say, I think looking at porn is a solo activity. And again, doing a little shaming, right?
Good.
A little shaming. And then another strategy is for your kids to have a go-to YouTube video, or something funny. So when one kid's like, here's the porn, your kid can be like, whatever. I'm like, okay. And then say, check this out, and go to this video that they have on their phone or on their device, or take their device and say, oh, check this out, and just completely redirect. This requires some ovaries to be like able to do this.
Yeah, a little chutzpah here.
Yeah, a little chutzpah, perfect. A little chutzpah to do this, but older kids can handle it. And just being really clear, like, this is going to happen. It's not for kids. It can just totally mess you up. It's not real sex. It's like cartoons. Like, nobody's body looks like that. Like, people with penises, they're not that big in real life. Like, these people, like, nobody looks like that. Like, that is just, they're not real. I just read this really great quote. I should probably figure out who said it, which is, they said that porn is sex without hands.
Sex without hands.
Right? There's no caressing. There's no hand holding. There's no touching. It's just like getting right down to parts and holes.
I don't do enough, I guess.
It's okay.
I have enough exposure.
I have to occasionally, I'm not a porn consumer, and I'm like occasionally just have to go look because I have to go see. Like when I did that whole thing with Googling horses, I was like, okay. Like, it's not for me, but they just get right down to it. It's very, it's like an exchange. It's like like a transaction. It's transactional. So you have to talk to your kids about this. And the way that makes it the best way to talk about it is to make sure they understand healthy sexuality and your values, and know what sex is, and understand that it's a wonderful, pleasurable part of life. Like, they're prepared for this part of life. They're ready for, as ready as they can be, later on. Like, you're really getting them ready. You're preparing them to feel good about themselves as a sexual person, to understand about healthy relationships and consent, and know what to do when difficult stuff comes up, right? And so this is part of that. So if your kids, your kids, like, you have to talk with them about sexuality. And sometimes you haven't, and you have to talk to them about, frankly, you've got to talk to them about porn before you talk to them about sex, because the risk to them is very high. And you can, if you have a middle schooler, you can probably assume they've seen it. Average age of exposure is 9. Sorry.
It's okay. No,
Let's keep breathing.
I'm just breathing. And it's so important though. I mean, this is this is a brand new thing we have to deal with. We did not have to deal with it before. We can't just turn our heads and pretend it's not happening, because that's not safe for our kids. Like, we have to have our own kahunas and chutzpah and ovaries to like just do this thing and have these conversations and get these resources, even though it's awkward and it's uncomfortable or whatever it is. Like, we have to suck it up and do that for our kids, because it's so important. Which is why I do that. But I think I'm going to make my husband do a couple of these, I think, because he's been avoiding, he's been hiding behind my back, I think, on this one.
That's very common. Those boys. Yeah. So when you talk, I would have a conversation. So just general, just for all of y'all, you just learned a bunch of stuff. And we did not plan to talk about this per se, right? And we just ended up in this space of talking about some really, really challenging parts of sexuality and parenting. And so I want to encourage you to maybe listen again. And then if you're parenting with someone, or you have a really good friend, is to have some conversations around, like, how are we going to, like, strategizing? So we have the first piece, which is around consent and sexual behavior in kids. And like, how do we want to think and talk about that? And then this porn piece, like, how do we want to think and talk about that? For me, the porn thing is way more important. And then with your parenting person, like with your spouse, like, talk about, okay, what do you feel like you can handle here? Right? What can you handle? What do you want to take on? And it's really important for dads to talk with their daughters, because it sets up that relationship and around, it's, talking with someone who isn't the same gender as you. And also girls who have close relationships with their fathers, who are open about sexuality, they tend to wait a little bit longer before they have sex and feel better about themselves. So who doesn't want that? Right.
Cool. And I did make my husband go get menstrual gear stuff for my daughter one time when, we were at a beach house, and,
excellent.
And, said, this is what she needs. Can you go get this? Blah, blah, blah. And, he gave it to her. And so there was a little bit of a normalization around that. So
yeah, good.
I feel like we're on a good step towards that. So we want to normalize this. We want to look at I love the idea of re-listening. All the resources. Amy said she's going to send me that list of books. We are going to put it in the show notes. And dear listener, you can access the show notes so easily, because what you can do is, wherever you're listening to this on your device, you can take out your device, look at it, and there's going to be a link, a little thing to click that says show notes on there. And on mine, I just push that button, it flips to a new page. You see all the notes. And we're going to have all those notes and links right there. So you could probably look at your device right now, scroll down, you're going to see a bunch of links, and you'll see Amy's books right there. So you do not stop, go. Resource yourself.
Go buy something. So yeah. And I just wanted some words of encouragement, because this has been hard. I would imagine. Watching your face,
it's been hard for me.
I can tell. I got you right in front of me. Yeah, I can tell. It's been challenging. So, you don't do this all at once. Just pick something that feels like one little thing. Like, maybe you go to the show notes and you go look at a book. Or maybe I have a podcast too, which is called Just Say This, and it's advice column style. So parents call in and ask me about all kinds of things. There are several episodes that are about porn. So go listen to the porn episodes, unless it's too much porn for you. So find some small thing you can do. Go look at the books, and then make a little plan. It is not cheating to plan. It is not cheating. It's not cheating to, like I already told you, to run around and say vulva, 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 right? It's not cheating to practice. Kids are really self-centered. They're not going to notice. And if you feel, and just say, when you start this conversation, say, I feel uncomfortable talking about this. Like, this is new to me, but it is so important. I want you to feel really great about this part of life. And I want you to understand, like, this is a really good thing. And you need to talk about some of this kind of yucky stuff. So you're safe and you're happy when it comes time for you to be, and healthy when it comes time for you to be a, a fully sexually empowered person when you're 28.
I love that. I think I forget that piece about, like, I want you to be safe. I want you to have like a empowering, positive experience. I'm just like so like focused on, like, I know this is uncomfortable, right? But I think this is such an important piece that you're pointing out here, Amy, which is this, like, there's like all this wonderful stuff, that is on the other side of this, and if we can protect our kids, then they can experience this wonderful side of sexuality,
Mhm.
which is like,
Mhm.
a great part of life.
Yeah, it is. So think about the long game. Like, what do you want for them? What do you hope for them? What's the long game? And then work back from that. And then work back from that. And that's a good place to start. That feels good, right? What do you hope for your kids? What do you hope for them? And when you focus on that, it makes all of this more important and easier
Yeah.
because it's the long game. My earbuds
Yes.
are falling out.
Exactly.
It's the long game.
Amy, you're wonderful. I love you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for
Thank
coming
you.
on and sharing
Thank
the
you.
work that you do, again on the Mindful Mama podcast. And you can find Amy back in another episode. I can't remember which number. I'm sorry, dear listener, but I think that what you've shared here will make ripple effects, and it's so important. Just so much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, my total pleasure. And thank you for being willing to talk about this hard stuff. Like I said, I don't get to talk about this as much as I probably should with parents. So go you. Thanks for being bold. Thanks for ovarying up.
Hurry up.
Ovary up.
Wow, that is quite an episode, I know. And I hope that you will be sharing this with your partner, sharing this with your friends. Make them listen, because this is so important, right? We can't just let this slide. I'm going to be sharing this with my honey too. So we are having those conversations too. So a great way to share it and to see all the cringy moments of my face is to head over to the Mindful Mama Mentor YouTube channel. And if you, as you're listening to this on your device, you can click over to the show notes and get a link right to that. Please make sure you subscribe so we can grow our baby fledgling YouTube channel and get this information out to more parents. And this may be a great way for you to share a clip from this episode. And when you do, if you share it on Instagram, tag me at Mindful Mama Mentor. If you share it on Facebook, see if you can find me at Mindful Mama Mentor, and let people know, and let me know, what are your takeaways? What are you going to be doing? Was this helpful? Did I go through these cringeworthy moments for the good of us all? Please let me know that I did. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you doing this work, being part of the tribe, part of the change and the revolution in the world. Thank you so much. I will be back in your ears next Tuesday. Talk to you then. Namaste.
I'd say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And just, I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth, and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this.
You can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clark-Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You will be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.